Thank you everyone so much for joining in today on this Kosmo Campfire regarding the whiteboard and checklist board. My name is Lexi. I cover the customer success. I am a part of the customer success team. You may know me from training videos or if you've submitted a support ticket. I also conduct trainings for Aprika and so forth. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for a little over 3 years now, and with Aprika for a little over 2 years. So really excited to be back doing the campfire session for this month. Next month, the timing will be suited for users in other countries like Australia or the UK. So you may want to just sign up just so that you receive the recording, or you can receive the recording link on our Kosmo Campfire section of the website. All right, on the agenda today, we will be discussing or deep diving into the Action Kanban whiteboard and the checklist board. And these boards allow you to just keep on top of all of your tasks and subtasks or your actions and checklist items. You can view these across all of your projects, or if you're viewing from the project overview component, then you will be viewing for just specific projects. But these tools will allow you to progress those projects as efficiently as possible. Our objectives today is to be able to use the drag and drop functionality to update the status or reassign ownership, and just kind of get an idea of what you can do with the drag and drop functionality, how to customize your Kanban cards, log time and create new records, and then reading and understanding the warning signs and symbols that are available on the whiteboard and checklist board, managing your settings, how to conduct a settings override, and managing your board filters. So let's go ahead and get into the demo. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to put them into the chat. If it's something that I can answer while doing the demonstration, I will go ahead and do that. If not, there will be some office hours time after to answer any questions. It can be related to the whiteboard or checklist board, but it does not have to be. Okay. And my browser went down. There we go. So starting from the mission control console, you can navigate to your whiteboard from here in the progress pad. So just taking a look at the different ways that you can navigate to the whiteboard. Just starting with the whiteboard, but we'll also check out different ways that you can navigate to your checklist board. So from your progress pad, you can view the standalone whiteboard. So when you navigate to this, it's going to open up the whiteboard for all of your projects. You can also navigate directly to the whiteboard and checklist board from a project record in the project overview component. So you'll want to make sure that that tab is enabled. All right, so you have your whiteboard and your checklist board tabs here. You can also navigate to the whiteboard and checklist board from your navigation menu or navigation bar at the top of your screen. And then you have your navigation menu where you can search items. So I can search for the whiteboard and checklist board here. I'm going to go ahead to the standalone whiteboard so that I can view for multiple projects. And we'll just take a look at starting from the top of the component and kind of work our way down through the different options that are available. So the first thing we'll take a look at is the add milestone and add action buttons. This will just, as stated, allow you to add a milestone to your project. You'll have to specify what project you are adding this milestone for, since we are viewing for multiple projects. It will open up your record detail and you can fill in your fields as required. You can also add action. So when selecting the add action button here, that will open up the full record detail for you to add. If you have any custom fields or required fields, you can add them from here as well. There is an quick add action, and this can be disabled. But just to show you quickly, you can search for your project, search the milestone, enter your action name, and then hit the check mark to continue on your action card. So this is your quick add, and then your add milestone and add action buttons will give you a full record detail. Next, taking a look at your column heading, you can search from any value that is a pick list. So if you have custom pick lists on your action object, and then of course, if you're viewing the checklist board, any pick lists on your checklist item object, then you'll be able to view it as a column heading. So I just created a text pick list, and then it'll show up here. You won't have to do any additional steps. You can see that I have status, action owner, action types, and so on, but I don't have the ability to sort by column heading. And that is because I'm viewing for all projects right now. If I want to be able to sort my Kanban by milestone, I will need to first filter by one project. So if you do multiple projects, it's not going to allow you that same capability. All right, so now I have my columns sorted by milestone. I can also select which milestones I'm viewing. So once you select your column heading, you can go in and select different options to kind of clean up your display and only viewing the information that you're wanting to view at that time. Okay, I'm going to go back into status and remove this filter. I'm not seeing any values for the canceled. I'm not going to be moving any action cards into canceled, so I'll just show you that and remove that option. Next, you have your summary fields. So next to your column heading title, so planned, in progress, on hold, and complete, you have a number. That is a count of how many records are in that column. The number below it would be a summary field. So right now I'm summarizing the total amount of checklist items. You can pick from different values on your project. I might want to see my completed billable hours for all of my records that are in that column, and so forth. So you can select quite a bit of different options from your action. Next, we'll take a look at your filter. So on your whiteboard, and again, we'll take a look at the checklist board after, you'll be able to select the different filters. Right now, I'm not filtering by anything. I'm just viewing all of the actions that I have in my system. I can create a filter and save it so that I can come back, and I'll just show you how to do that. So I'll first want to select my filter criteria. You can filter for more than one thing. If you are adding filters for your role, you want to make sure you specify a filter logic that makes sense. So am I a project owner and I have a certain skill, or I want project owners who are Barbara, or I want to view, the consultant team. So you want to make sure you're using your filter logic as required. You can also search by actions that fall within a certain date range, and then some custom fields if you want to filter by that as well. So I'm just going to add in my projects that I want to filter by, and I have the preset saved to new filter because I'm going to create a new filter. Next, I'll go ahead and save, and now we can see that I have that filter saved in my filter list here. If I want to delete it, I will first need to select that filter and then select the delete button. So I'll just go ahead and filter. You can see, the amount of records that I have shown has now changed. My filter icon is also turned green. I can remove all of the filters by selecting this cancel button, and that will clear all of the filters available. Next buttons we'll see is the expand and collapse all for your cards. We'll review this in your settings where you can choose to only view your cards in a compact view or only view your cards in an expanded view where you're viewing more detail. And so let's just go ahead and check that out. So in our settings, like I said, you can modify your card view. I chose to have both compact and detail. So if I expand a card, it will stay expanded. If I collapse a card, it'll stay collapsed. And then I can select which one is default. So by default, if I don't select to expand or collapse, I want a full detail view, which means my card will be expanded to show any like additional fields and things like that that I may have added to the card. Next is our board features. So the add milestone, add action, the quick add action, and then the roll tab over here on the side can be removed from the display. You can also choose to filter down to a certain number of actions. So if you have quite a bit of projects or very large projects, you don't want to pull in too much data. It could cause the component to error out or hit governor limits. So you may want to select a certain amount of records to view at once. And again, that's outside of my filter. So if I'm viewing the entire component with no filters, you definitely want to keep this at a lower amount so it doesn't error out. Next is your color reference. So there is a color field on individual project records where you could specify a project color. That will be kept here and also other places within Mission Control. Or if you use your Gantt chart status value colors, that's found in, you can find that in your setup. Then you can change where your colors are being pulled from for your projects. Next, you have your card fields, so you can add any custom or existing fields that are on your action record or action object, I'm sorry. And you have your card features that you can hide and show. So these are the icons and then like some of the summary values that are shown at the bottom of the card. So just to run through this, the chatter icon, it's going to look the same throughout Mission Control, but just to touch note on that, it's the little chat message icon. Your checklist item icon will be a list. This will open up your checklist manager. So for that action, all of the related checklist items will show there. Your user stories icon, right here I have my issue manager, but once I show my full card, if I had user stories related to that action, it will show there. Your issues icon, so that will be your whistle, that will open up your issue manager. The log time option, that is going to open up your standard log time component, and we'll view that a little bit later. Your action view is that eye icon, so that's going to open up your full record detail for the action that you select. You also have your footer information, so your hour summary. That will show your time clock next to it, and it's going to show you your completed amount of hours out of your scheduled amount of hours for that action. Progress bar, so if you've progressed a certain amount or a certain percentage on your action, you can see this blue bar at the bottom. So I marked this action as complete. You can see that the bar is now full. And then on the left here for my planned actions, you can see that this bar is grayed out. I haven't, added any time or completed anything towards that action. Next, you have your checklist summary. So for items that do have related checklists, for example, this PAN 0108 has one checklist item, and I can see that checklist item has been completed. You also have a footer issue summary. If you have any issues related to your action, you're going to see that issue icon, and then again, your completed out of planned issues related to that action. And then next, you'll get your footer date warning. So this little red icon that shows a warning, that's letting me know that I'm either past the date that I'm supposed to start that action, and the action is not in the required status. So right now, if you take a look to the left at PAN 0011, this action was supposed to start July 14th of 2021. I am well past that start date and it's still in plan status, so I get the red icon. If you are nearing the start date and your action is still in planned, or it's not been moved to in progress, or you don't have any time log, things like that, then it'll show a yellow icon. So nearing that start date, yellow, red is you've passed that start date. All right, and then lastly, you can choose how your cards are sorted within your whiteboard. There is a whiteboard priority order field. You can disable the use of that and just assign your own sorting criteria based on fields. And then you have your ascending and descending order, which can be selected here as well. All right. If you don't want your users to be able to modify their own whiteboard and you just want everyone to have the same settings that on the whiteboard, that can be managed within the control pad. And that's the Gantt chart, timesheet, and whiteboard. So if I was to select the whiteboard settings override, then users will not be able to modify the display, the sort order, any of that information, any of these features. It'll just be managed from the control pad. That is the same for your checklist board as well. All right, so now that we've now that we've modified our settings, I'll just show you a little bit about the drag and drop functionality. So right now I'm sorting, or I have my columns by status. If I wanted to move an item, let's move the item that's supposed to be, being worked on. I can just pick that card up and drop it in the column that I want. So now I can look at that action detail and see that the status has been updated from planned to in progress. Okay, when I close this, I can also reassign my actions to different roles by using the roles tab. And you can see I have my image populated here, and to do so, I just added my image to my profile, my user profile. So you can see my user has my image populated here. And then when I drag and drop on my cards, that image will remain as well. So I can see who's assigned to those cards. So just drag and drop from the roles tab. You can also sort or filter the roles that are available here. You can have any pre-saved filters or existing roles that are already assigned to cards on this display. You can also select by skill, proficiency, or team as well. Okay. Lastly, let's get into the icons that are available. So I'm going to use PAN 0009 as an example. I see quite a few icons available. The first one I see is the contributor. So this shows me, or lets me know that in addition to this action having an action owner, someone is contributing hours. I can hover over that and get a full detail of who's contributing to this action, how much time they're contributing, what's been completed, and so forth. I have the action owner icon, the record chatter. So I'm going to click into this. I can also view the related chatter. So action chatter, your milestone record chatter, and project. You can have, there is an option for your post to roll up. So I might want my action chatter post to roll up to my milestone and then to my project level. You'll see in the description for the post that it's been rolled up from the milestone, or it'll show you where that post is rolling up from. So on my milestone record, I can see that same post and it's being pulled from this action called build page content. You can disable that in your console under your project automation settings. The next icon is your checklist item manager. So you can create your checklist items from here. The same checklist item manager that's available throughout Mission Control. You can edit your record if you need to add in further details. You can do so by selecting the eye icon. If you need to edit the details that are already being displayed, you can do so by selecting the edit pencil. You can remove records or navigate to the issue manager, or you can mark your item complete using the checkbox all the way to the left. If you need to filter, you can do so from here within this display. You can also add in custom fields or modify how your checklist items are sorted within that checklist item manager as well. Just going to close that. Opening up my issue manager. So again, if I need to create any issues, filter, or modify any fields, once I have a record displayed here, I will be able to update that record from within the issue manager as well. I can also log time from this component. So when I am tracking time or logging time against an action, if I click that button within the display, then it will already populate the action that I'm working on. If I clicked it for a checklist item, it's going to also populate the checklist item. Then I can provide further detail as in regard to the time that I'm completing. Or I can start the time tracker. Once the time tracker has been started, you will be able to see that the icon will display red, and that just lets me know I'm currently tracking time towards that action. When I'm done tracking time, I can just go back to that action, click the time log icon, and it will stop tracking time. Getting into the action detail, you can edit your action or remove it from here, but you can also navigate to the resource assignment wizard. So say I wanted to, change the owner of this action or add a contributor, and I'm not sure who I want to go about contributing time and so forth, then I can search for different resources and drag and drop and choose who the action owner and contributors will be for this action. All right. And then again, taking a look at my icons at the bottom, as I've been progressing time, you'll see this update. I'm just going to allow that to run a little bit so that it actually has time to complete against that action. All right. Before we move over to the checklist board, which is very similar, does anyone have any questions? All right, I haven't had any questions come in, so I will go ahead and continue to the checklist board. As you can see, very similar. You'll have most of the same options. There are a few differences. So of course, I can add my checklist. I won't be able to create a milestone from here. You will be able to change your column heading based on pick list values or pick list fields that are available on your checklist Item object. Right now, I only have 2 pick list values, so whoever owns the checklist item, or by status. I can see that this value is not owned by someone, so I'm just going to drag and drop to assign that to Chris. All right, and then after a little bit of time, it will move over, or I can refresh my screen, of course, and my card will update and move over. Just as before, you can select the options that you want to view. I don't want to view the ones that have no value. And what that means is that it doesn't mean that the record doesn't have any values. It just means that for the column heading that I've selected, that particular field doesn't have a value. So that record didn't have an item owner. Same summary field options, your filter, expand, collapse. And then just to take a look at the settings, so you can see you do have the same option to have compact or detailed cards. Your board feature, you don't have the option to create milestones, but you can create your checklist items or quick add a checklist item from here. The add checklist item button will give you a full detail of your checklist item, where the quick add would just be filling in a few details within the display. So again, quite a bit of the same features, but for your card features, you only have chatter, the issues icon, your log time, and then your hours, issue summary, and then your date warnings, so that you have upcoming checklist items that need to be complete. You will notice that you cannot access the checklist item manager from here, and that's because it's designed to be able to edit your individual checklist items directly from the card. All right, so that would be all in regards to the features for your checklist board and whiteboard. I'm going to stop tracking my time for this. So we can see some time has passed, 4 minutes has passed. So I'm going to select stop tracking time. And you can see it went back to the normal color. I'm no longer tracking time. Once I refresh my screen, my progress and my hour summary will update as well. All right, is there any questions? It doesn't have to be in regard to the whiteboard or checklist board. It can be any other questions that you have as well. All right, everyone is pretty quiet this fine morning. Oh, we got a question come in. Is the checklist board enabled for everyone? Yes, so your checklist board, everyone should be able to access it. If you have visibility to that tab, then it should be available to you. If it's not loading, I recommend checking your permissions that you have visibility to those checklist items. If you're receiving an error at the top, I definitely recommend reporting that to support. It may be an error that's catching up or stalling the component and not pulling in your records as required. There is usually a red message that came up. An error did come up for a null value, but you might have noticed that should probably display first. Then I would also recommend checking your filter criteria. So if the component is opening and it just shows blank, go ahead and check your filter criteria. If you are on a project record and you notice it's not showing, you want to make sure that project is not archived, or there is the option to show or hide your project from the component as well. So you'll want to make sure that it's visible. So this project isn't archived. I don't believe I have any archived here. So if you've run through the list, your items aren't archived, or you have visibility to those records outside of the component, then I definitely recommend checking in with support on that. No problem. Another thing that you'll want to make sure is if you're sorting by a certain column heading. So say for instance, I had all of my items without a status or without an action type, and it was sorting into that no value column. If I have the no value column not being displayed, then it may appear that I don't have any records, but really I'll just need to add visibility to that column as well. So that's another thing to check. I can also answer any questions you may have that is not in regard to the checklist item board and the whiteboard. So if you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them here. I will go ahead and keep the call open for another 2-3 minutes, and then if I don't have any questions, then we'll go ahead and wrap up this campfire session. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback, David. Thanks for joining in. All right, so I don't have any questions coming in at all, so I'll go ahead and wrap up this session. Again, thank you so much for everyone for joining in. Please feel free to check back next month for our next session. Again, this will be scheduled for our Australia and UK time, and that will be hosted by Omer, who is another member of the customer success team. It was great speaking with you all, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.